Good morning, friends, and my dear students. Today we are going to study about Chapter 10, Motion and Measurement of Distance. As we have studied in the first part about the measurement, today we are going to study about the motion. So what do you mean by motion? Motion means when and position is changing, the object is changing its position with respect to its surrounding and with time. मतलब time बदल रहा है लेकिन सराउंडिंग नहीं चेंज हो रही बट ऑब्जेक्ट एक पोजीशन से दूसरी पोजीशन पे जा रहा है ठीक है फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर आपने एक बॉल फेंकी राइट तो जहां से आपने बॉल फेंकी है दैट इज द इनिशियल पोजीशन जहां पे बॉल जाके रुकी दैट इज द फाइनल पोजीशन तो बॉल इज चेंजिंग इट्स पोजीशन फ्रॉम इनिशियल टू फाइनल है ना एक जगह से दूसरी जगह वो हिला लेकिन जो उसके आसपास की चीजें हैं फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर आप रूम में कर रहे हैं बॉल का इधर से उधर तो आपके टेबल चेयर वॉल्स दीज डू नॉट चेंज इट्स पोजीशन बट द बॉल चेंज्ड राइट एंड क्योंकि वो थोड़ी दूर पे जाके गिरा तो वो टाइम भी लिया होगा उसने 2 seconds 3 seconds so that is known as motion. Okay, so what do you mean by motion? When the position of an object with respect to its surroundings changes with the passage of time is said to be in motion. Now, what do you mean by a body to be at rest? रेस्ट का मतलब होता है कि कोई भी पोजीशन चेंज नहीं हो रही है ऑब्जेक्ट की इट इज स्टेशनरी स्टेशनरी मतलब एक ही जगह पे फिक्स्ड है फॉर एग्जाम्पल इफ यू कीप अ टेबल इन योर रूम that table will not move unless and until you push it right so that is said to be at rest then if I push that table then it will become in motion because it changed the position with respect to time and to the surroundings. Now let us have types of motion. There are 5 types of motion which we are going to study in this video. First is rectilinear motion, second is circular motion, third is rotatory motion, fourth is oscillatory motion and fifth is periodic motion. Now let us see this video which I have taken. It will relate you to rectilinear motion.
Say Ben wants to move this table from point A to point B. What will he do? Yes, he will push it in the direction of point B. You see that as he pushes the table, it starts moving. Anything around us that moves, we say that it's in motion. So this table is in motion. And since Ben is also moving along with the table, he is also in motion. In our day-to-day life, we see various things moving around us. Simple examples that I can give are vehicles moving on the road, people walking across streets, birds flying in the sky, and so on. Do you know that the Earth and the other planets also undergo motion? Yes, they are revolving around the sun. You can give me thousands of such examples of motion. But what if I ask you to tell me the definition of motion? How can we define something as intuitive as motion of a body? Well, for that, we need to look at what exactly happens to a body when it's in motion. Let's say this vehicle moves from point A to point B. You see that as it's moving towards B, its position in space changes with time. Initially, it was here, then here, and now after some time, it's here. Notice what's changing. The position of the object and the time too, which is changing anyway. The change in position of a body with time is what we call motion in simple words. Whenever there's a change in position of a body, we say it's either undergoing motion or has undergone motion. Let's discuss about the different types of motion now. The simplest type of motion is called the rectilinear motion. Notice that there is a word line in there. So we define this type of motion as a motion in a straight line.
So as you can see in a rectilinear motion it's written rectilinear. Linear L-I-N-E-A-R. Linear means anything which is moving in a straight line. Right? So the word itself indicates that any motion which is having in a straight line is known as rectilinear motion.
Yes, rectilinear motion is nothing but motion in a straight line. So if an object is moving along this straight line path, we say that it's performing rectilinear motion. For example, when a car is moving in a straight line on a straight road, it's performing rectilinear motion. There is one more thing that I want to discuss with you in this video. Assume you're on a railway platform watching the train pass by. You are at rest. For you, both the train as well as the passengers sitting inside are in motion. But will the people sitting inside the train say the same about the other passengers in the train? For a person sitting inside, the people in the train are not moving. They are at rest. So for the observer at rest on the platform, the people inside the train are moving, but for the person sitting inside, they are at rest. What does this tell us? This means that the motion of any object is relative to the observer.
So, we have read about rectilinear motion, okay? That any object which moves in a straight line is called rectilinear motion. The examples we can say is a car moving in a straight line, a ball falling freely from a roof of a building, motion of a striker on the carom board, and march past of its off. This is of soldiers in a parade. Soldiers. Okay, right. Now the point is that there was a thing which the lady said is that the position changes and the description of the position is always according to the object, right? For example, the person which was sitting on the railway station, the person is at rest, but for the person, the train is moving and the person sitting inside is also moving. So we would say that the person sitting at rest, if we compare it to the train, then the train is in motion and the person is sitting in the railway station is at rest. But if we go inside and we sit in the place of the person who is sitting inside the person who is sitting inside the train, for them, they are at rest and the train is moving because they are not moving from one place to another, right? So the motion will define accordingly when you will move, when you will see to the surrounding. ठीक है ना? आप हमेशा compare करते हैं दूसरी चीज से ये देखने के लिए that something is at rest or in motion. Now let us have another type of motions.
What can this type of motion be? It is the motion of a body along the circumference of a circle. Example: motion of the earth around the sun is an example of circular motion. The third type of motion that we saw is a rotational motion. It is the motion of a body around a fixed axis which is passing.
So we have studied the first is circular motion. The circular motion is basically a type of motion which is surrounded by the an object is moving from one place to another but in a circular path, right? So that is known as circular motion.
What can this type of motion be?
Yes. So let us see the circular motion again.
What can this type of motion be? It is the motion of a body along the circumference of a circle. Example: motion of the earth around the sun.
Now you can see that the earth is revolving around the sun. So this is known as circular motion. You can see that this earth is revolving like this. First the earth is here, then the earth will go to this side, then this, then this. So the earth is changing its position, correct? But it is going in a circular form only. So this is known as circular motion.
Is an example of circular motion. The third type of motion that we saw is a rotational motion. It is the motion of a body around a fixed axis which is passing through the object. This is important. The axis has to pass through the object. Example of rotational motion is a ceiling fan rotating along its axle. So you see that if I draw a hypothetical line called the axis,
so you can see that rotational motion means anything which is do not moving from its side but it's revolving, right? मतलब वो अपने आप में ही घूम रहा है, जैसे कि लट्टू है, उसको आप छोड़ देते हैं तो वो अपने एक्सिस पे ही घूमता रहता है, मतलब it do not change the position but it is moving round and round, है ना, like rotational motion of the earth. Because of that the day and night happens, right? So this axis of rotation should be there. It is an imaginary line which goes through that ऑब्जेक्ट. तो अब अर्थ का भी एक्सिस आपको पता है, उसी तरह हम इस फैन का भी एक्सिस ऑफ रोटेशन बोल सकते हैं. तो द एग्जांपल ऑफ फैन, द सीलिंग फैन और द टेबल फैन is an example of rotational motion, but it is also an example of circular motion. How? If you put a dot in this fan, right, and you leave it, right, if you put a dot in this fan and you leave it, this dot will move from this place in a circular form and again come back to this place, then again come back to this place. That means what? This blade of the fan is moving from one place to another in a circular form and coming back to the same. So this is known as circular motion. So the blades of the fan is having circular motion, but the whole fan, the centralized part, it actually having a rotational motion.
Axis of rotation, then it's passing through the fan. And the final type of motion is a periodic motion, which is the motion that repeats itself in equal intervals of time. Can you think of any example of this type of motion? Any object repeating its motion in equal intervals of time will be undergoing periodic motion. Assume an object is moving in circles and is covering each round every 3 seconds. Is it performing a periodic motion? Absolutely. Since it's repeating its motion along the same path every 3 seconds, it is undergoing periodic motion. But wait a moment. This object is moving along the circumference of a circle. So it is also undergoing circular motion. So what can you conclude from this example? We can say that an object can undergo more than one type of motion at the same time. Here are the few of the examples of motion in our everyday life. Go through them well and tell me what type of motion each one of them represents. And note that one example could also have more than one type of motion. The first one is clearly rectilinear motion. It's a car moving along a straight line. The second one is interesting. Most of us would have guessed rectilinear motion after seeing the word straight. Which type of motion are the wheels of an automobile performing? Are they undergoing rotational motion or rectilinear motion, or both? Since the automobile is moving in a straight line, its wheels are undergoing both rectilinear and rotational motion at the same time. What about the simple pendulum? We know that a simple pendulum performs to and fro motion. This to and fro motion repeats itself in equal intervals of time. So it's undergoing periodic motion.
Right, so we have studied about these type of motions. Now let us revise that what is circular motion. Circular motion is basically when a body moves along a circular path, it is said to be in a circular motion. We have seen the example of movement of earth around the sun, motion of the moon around the earth, and athletes running in a circular track. Now then we have studied about the rotatory motion, right? So the what is rotatory motion? A body is said to be in rotatory motion if it moves about a fixed axis without changing its position. For example, motion of the blades of the fan, the wheel of the swing, the wheel of the swing machine, the potter's wheel, and a spinning top. Then periodic motion. What does the periodic motion we have studied about? That anything which repeats itself after a regular interval of time is said to be periodic motion, right? For example, like your classes, right? जैसे कि आपके स्कूल में classes होते थे, first period, second period, third period, fourth period, right? So it is having a particular time period and after that it changes, right? So that is known as periodic motion. You can also take an example of clock. Clock's hand always tick after 5 minutes. So every number which is written 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the 1, then that is 5 minutes, then 2 is 10 minutes, then 15 minutes, then 20 minutes. So here you can see the interval is all 5 minutes. So that is a periodic motion because it's repeating itself again and again after having a 5 minutes interval in minutes, right? Then you can have the example of heartbeat of a person. Heartbeat of a person also have 72 minutes. Pulses of the heartbeat are there in 1 minute, right? So that is also a periodic motion. Now let us see the last type of motion, which is the oscillatory motion. So please watch this video.
The following activity is to observe different types of movement. We need a string tied to a frame, a metal ball, a beaker with some thermocol balls, a straw. We will tie this metal ball to this frame here. Now pull the ball to one side like this and observe the motion of the ball. Now we will take the beaker with thermocol balls and insert a straw into it. Hold your hands around the straw and beaker like this. With all your strength, blow into the straw and examine the movement of balls inside the beaker. What is the difference in the movement patterns of the metal ball and the thermocol balls? The metal ball follows a definite path. You will see that the ball moves towards one side and comes back. It continues to move back and forth. The thermocol balls move in all possible directions and do not come back to the same point at all. The first type of movement is. The following activity is to observe different types of movement. We need a string tied to a frame. In points, its movement is called oscillatory motion. The object moves between two extreme points. It crosses this central point here while moving back and forth between the 2 points. The movement of the thermocol balls is random motion. Random motion is a motion without any definite sequence or direction. Have you seen a guitar? Have you observed what happens when a string is plucked? It moves back and forth rapidly. What kind of motion is that? What about the movement of a swing?
So in the last video, we have studied that what is oscillatory motion. So you have seen a ball swinging, right? So that is like it goes to the left hand side, that come back in the center. Again, it goes to the right hand side and come back in center. So this movement of the body is known as to and fro motion, right? So that is known as oscillatory motion. And because it is going left and right and coming back to the center, it is taking equal time, equal interval of time. So all the oscillatory motions are also periodic motions, right? So to and fro motion of a stone is oscillatory motion. Motion of the swing is also oscillatory. Pendulum of a clock is also oscillatory. And the string of a guitar is also a oscillatory motion, right? So we have studied about all the 5 type of motions. I hope you have liked this video and you have understood the type of motions. Okay. Thank you.